lived there with Doll and Bertie. And after the end of that crop year, where did we move to during that winter time? Winter of 47, 48. Remember?
Well, we moved from Bertie and Doll. Stayed with them a pretty good while there.
During
We
the fall.
moved from there in the house with Buddy.
Yeah.
Stayed with Buddy Taylor for a
Down
long
there on
time.
Jake Holloman's place.
Yeah, stayed there with Buddy, and Buddy helped us a lot. You know.
Yeah.
He was real good to us.
That was during the winter time of 47.
Yeah, 47.
48.
That's right. And we stayed there with Buddy for a long time. And Buddy just treated us, just like we was one of his family.
Well, he always treated you that way.
Oh, he's always done.
Remember how good he was to you when Dad was gone all the time?
Yeah,
back in the old days.
sure
He
was.
always.
He just stayed right there, me, you, and Ray, and you and James, I mean. And he just real.
Well, what did Buddy kind of stay there with you when Dad would be off on the working at sawmills? That when he come there and cut wood for you?
Yeah,
and
come
earlier?
in there and stayed. Verlon brought him down there. He stayed with us a long time.
But then we moved in the house with them down at Jake Holman's place.
Yeah,
By the big old tin barn. By the big old tin barn down there on the river.
Yeah, sure did.
They had more kids than they could take care of, but it took us in too, didn't they?
Yeah, they had a bunch of them, but they fixed us plenty of room. My Willie treated me just like I was a sister. And she was real good.
Well, they're good people. They always was good people.
They sure was. Really good too.
And so we stayed there that winter. Well, we stayed there about 2 or 3 months, but around the time that real bad weather set in, about January or so, didn't we get with
David and Maggie?
David and Maggie.
Lived with David and Maggie.
Where'd we go from there?
Well, I forgot just where David.
Tyron? Went over on Tyron.
Tyron
River.
Yeah, Tyron's a river with David and Maggie.
Yeah, we stayed over there during the real bad winter time in January and February of 1948.
Sure was. They was real good to us too.
Yeah.
Sure was.
In January and February 1948.
Yeah.
On into the spring. And we stayed there. And we didn't have nothing to eat.
That's right.
But David would go into town. He'd try to get groceries on the credit, and he'd try to get somebody to give us some groceries on the credit, and we'd walk all the way in from Tyronza to Lepanto.
Yeah.
Sleeting and raining, we'd sit up and play cards all night.
Yeah.
We had a rough winter in 1948.
Yeah, we sure did.
And then, where did we move to after we left there in the spring of 48? Where'd we go to from there?
We moved in the house of Wilburn and Agnes.
That's right.
Agnes and Wilburn had got married.
Yeah, in 1948, in Alonzo Frank's place.
Yeah, moved with
they had a 3-room shotgun house.
Yeah, that's right.
We moved in 1 room in the back of that house.
Yeah, did. Wilburn and Agnes, that's good to us, too.
So we just helped them farm there at Alonzo's place.
Big cotton,
Well, we had chopped cotton there.
Yeah. James drove a tractor.
Yeah. And that was in the summer of 1948.
Yeah.
And that was the summer of 1948 that the Jobs moved.
Yeah, Job's folks moved around Alonzo's place.
Yeah. And they had two girls and 3 boys.
Had 3 girls.
3 girls.
Magdalene and
Imogene and
Imogene and Lorraine.
Yeah.
That's Lorraine got crazy about James,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. They had 3 girls.
And they had
at home they had one married at Ruby.
Ruby, yeah.
Yeah.
Married to Veda's coming.
Yeah, that's right. She lived right down below.
And they had a couple of sons too, didn't they?
Yeah, had 2 little boys. Vedas and Ruby.
Well, who was that other couple? The other couple had them boys, the one that was tongue-tied.
Tongue-tied?
Yeah, they had Sweeney. Cecil,
oh, yeah.
Cecil Sweeney and Doug Sweeney.
Doug Sweeney, yeah.
Yeah.
They lived there.
They were good old boys.
Yeah.
And they come out from Alabama, all of them did to pick cotton.
Oh, come out there to pick
in
cotton.
In the fall of 48.
Yeah. And then Job's they stayed on there for another year and made a crop there.
Yeah, and I was going to school at
Fraser
Fraser
School.
on the river.
Yeah.
Remember, I had quit school in the 4th grade, and Vera, she talked me into
Going back.
going back to school.
And Will got you back in
And she
school.
told me, you're going to go to school.
Yeah.
And so I kind of credit my Aunt Vera with
I know it.
with me
Vera's
finishing
good.
school. Hadn't been for my Aunt Vera, I wouldn't have got a high school
Vera's
diploma.
real sweet to me now, too. I love her.
She's the reason. Her and Betty Webb.
Yeah. That was your teacher.
The two
Betty.
people that I'm responsible. I really feel like responsible for me finishing high school
You're right.
was Vera and Betty Webb.
That's right.
And so we went to Fraser over there in the canebrake on the river.
Yeah.
And I had my problems with the Vera's boys.
Yeah. Sure.
Had fights and stuff, you know. Remember Paul and Kenneth Rachel would bring them over there and they'd stay
With Will.
2 or 3, 4 months at a time, whatever, you know, in the summer.
Yeah.
And during that time, Dad, you had a marriage to a real thin lady during that time.
Oh, that
Woman named Jean.
Yeah.
Well, how the heck did you ever meet Jean anyway?
Well, I tell you, it was, I don't know what you call it, but at that time, I was about the most lonesome son of a gun that ever lived. I was driving out Lamar and didn't know what the heck I was looking for. I was looking for something, and I didn't know what.
That was in 1948.
I don't remember what year.
Yeah, it was 1948. We lived in Lonzo Frank's place.
Well, maybe it
In
was.
the spring or summer of
But
1948.
anyway, I thought, well, what the hell? I might as well stop into this place here. And I saw a beer sign up there. It was a cafe, is what it was. It was a nice cafe. It wasn't just a hole-in-the-wall beer joint. It was a cafe, and it was on a Sunday afternoon. And they didn't have much business. Wasn't just a few customers in there. And I thought, well, I'll walk in there and get me a Coke. So that's what I walked in and ordered, was a Coke. Sat down at the counter. They were tables and chairs in there. Wasn't nobody much in there. And I was sitting there at the table, at the counter, drinking this Coke, and really didn't want it. I just stopped in there just for the heck of it. And there sits this couple over there in a booth. And I kept cutting my eyes around at them, and I could tell they was arguing about something. And the first thing I thought of was, well, it's a man and his wife that they're in an argument about something. And it's none of my damn business, so why bother with it? And I'd get back, take another sip out of my Coke, and try to forget about it. And I cut my eyes back around there, and they were still arguing. Finally, he gets up and walks out. And after he walks out, I kept looking at her sitting there by herself. She opens her purse and starts looking for, looked like some money to pay for whatever the heck had ordered, which was the case. And I thought, well, poor woman, she probably don't have too much money, and her and her husband have done had an argument, and he's walked out with her, left her to pay the bill. And I don't know, for some reason, I couldn't keep my mind off of her, and I couldn't keep my eyes off of her.
You and the Isla done divorced then, hadn't you?
Oh, yeah. She walks up and pays the ticket and walks out. By that time, I had about half my Coke drank. And I jumped up with a half Coke in a bottle sitting there on the counter. Run out there and jumped in that old 37 Oldsmobile, and there she was walking down the street by herself. And I still didn't know what that was her husband that she was arguing with. And I takes off down the darn street, pulled over to the sidewalk, and she stopped, looked around, and I spoke to her and started talking to her. And I don't know, one thing led to another. And I asked her about going someplace. No, I want to take her home. That's what it was. And it ended up that she lived right across the street. I wasn't but about 60 feet from where she lived. And she told me, says, I just live right over there in that brick building. And I told her, I said, well, all right, I'll take you over there to that brick building. And she got kind of amused with me when I told her that. And I was sitting there with the door open on that old 37 Oldsmobile. And finally, I talked her into getting in there with me. We drove on down the street. There was a truckload of watermelons on the street. And she said, oh, I'd love to have a watermelon. So I quicked over there and bought the biggest watermelon I had on the truck. And I took off. Went off way the heck off out about the city limit to a beer joint I knew. But I didn't go in the beer joint. I stopped before I got to the beer joint. And pulled off in the shade of a tree. And we sat there and eat the heart out of that watermelon. It was darn big. It wasn't no way that two people could eat all that watermelon. And I don't know, from that, I kind of lost my senses or something. Started going with it.
Out of lonesome.
Yeah. I was just
Kind of lost, huh?
I was lost. I needed somebody to talk to, and she was one that would listen to my complaints and this, that, and the other.
Okay.
And
I need to know about it.
I don't know. Things kept going from there till they went too far. So
I don't think I know any of that.
I don't know. I just as soon not talk about the rest of it. For the rest of it, it turned well, something I just as soon not talk about.
Well, she had a boy named Ernie, didn't she?
Oh yeah, 3.5 years old.
And you and her ended up getting married and buying a house out there on Dunn Road.
Yeah, right out there close to the new VA hospital.
And it's a brand new house, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a year old. It wasn't brand new. It was a year old. It was built one March, and we bought it the next March.
I'll never forget, Dad, the first time he come over there, and Gene said, we want Ray to come home with us. Come and spend a couple of days with us, over Memphis. And I was so proud. Went over there, and I've been over there at your house in Memphis before with Leala, and had so much fun. And went over there this time, and this girl reminded me of a city slicker.
That's what she was.
And she tried to change you and to get you to be Mr. Suburbanite and Mr. Sophisticated and all that kind of stuff. You was trying to play the game with her and everything. And never forget morning I woke up there, I went in there, and I've been used to being on a farm, and you get up in the morning, you eat all you want to eat. I got up that morning, and I come to the table, and she said, what do you want, an egg or some cereal? I never will get that. And I thought, an egg or some cereal? You know, back on the farm, when you're going to go out and work all day and chop cotton or something, you just eat all the gravy and biscuits and eggs and everything you can get your hands on. She was going to cut me down to just one egg or a little bitty bowl of cereal. And so I think I ordered an egg. I don't know what it was. You'd already gone to work. No, you hadn't. You were still there. You was going to go to work. And so I'd never eaten with a fork in my life. Never had eaten with a fork, and I was like about 13. I was almost 13. I was 13 because this was in the summer of 48, and I was 13 in the spring of 48. And when I started eating that egg with that spoon, boy, she started raising all kind of cane about it.
That sound like Gene.
Ain't that boy ever learned any manners, and hasn't he ever learned to, any etiquette and how to eat and all this stuff? Don't know how to use a napkin or a fork or nothing, and all this kind of stuff. And she thought that was terrible. She thought more of that little old dog of hers, Trixie, than she did of her own kid.
Right.
But I was completely innocent. I'd never known, any discipline at the table. You just go sit down and just gobble it up like all farm kids did. And I just doing what I thought was right. And I felt like everything I did, she's going to criticize me. But finally, I just sit down and shut my mouth. I was scared to say anything or do anything. And I was scared to touch any of his toys or anything that Ernie had, So that was my first brush with
City life.
With city life with Gene. And I thought, if that's what it's all about, I just stick with the country,
Right.
I couldn't wait to get back out there to the country. But he hurt somebody.
No.
To get what he wanted.
He was just like that over there. She had never bothered anybody. She had never done anybody any wrong.
That's right.
James was like his mama.
Yeah, sure was, it was.
He never done. He never tried to push anybody down. Look how Wilburn pushed him up there at Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Well, he come to me and he laughed about it. Well, Wilburn, he got mad and said this, that, and the other. But he didn't try to low rate Wilburn.
No.
He got Wilburn that job. He got Wilburn the job that he got right now. If it hadn't been for him, where the hell would Wilburn wound up? No telling.
Well, Wilburn would have done good somewhere. Wilburn's a good man. He's a good worker.
Yeah, he would have done good somewhere.
Not
but
there.
James got him the job that he got right now. I'll never forget that. And Wilburn has said some things about James to me that it burnt my butt up. And I would like to just, there's been times that I'd like to shut up my fist and sock him in the face for the things that he had said about James there in his shop. And I think, well, how could you forget that James got you the damn job that you got right now?
Yeah.
And that is one of the reasons that I'm not any closer with Wilburn than what I am right now, is for the things that he has said about James. After James getting him the only job that he's ever had that was worth a shit.
Well,
I've always loved you and James. For y'all were my flesh and blood. And I've loved you, and I've always wanted the best for you. I know I've never been able to get up there and give y'all a bunch of money or anything like that. But because of the love that I had for you and James, as a result of you and James being in Houston and having the things that you've had, the things that you've got right now, I could have said, well, piss off. I'm out of it. But I didn't. I loved you and James. And in the back of my mind and in my heart, there was something there for Zella. She was the mother of my two sons. And there's always been a lot of respect.
And you know, I stuck with him and do anything I could.
I know it.
And Mama had a chance back in the 40s. Mama had a chance to go out and go hoeing around.
Right.
She was offered.
No, I was offered.
She was offered.
That old man we lived with, Bill Riley.
Well, how about them guys on the street in Tupelo?
Yeah, I had them offered, but Lord, I
Had
said,
offered. You
I
could have
thought
made your life easier, couldn't you?
I might have could have done it, but it wasn't in the long run.
Well, I mean, money-wise. You could have made some
yeah.
money, couldn't you?
I was living hard, but I never did. No,
Well,
sir.
at that time, Zella wasn't a bad-looking woman.
No. Mama had some offers, didn't you, Mama?
Yeah, I had plenty of them. But I didn't take them, I just take them.
Well, she was afraid it would put strings on me and my brother.
Right?
Yeah,
And her.
that's
And
right.
her, too. And she just wasn't raised like that,
I
was
wasn't
you?
raised that way, and I just couldn't do it. I was a virgin when I married, and Verlon knows that.
Right. 24 years old.
Yeah.
And I was on the verge of carrying you to a doctor to find if there's something wrong with you. I probably never before mentioned this to you. And I thought, well, God darn, she's 24 years old. What's wrong with her? I can't do nothing.
Yeah, but now you know that.
There's something wrong with her. I need to take her to a doctor and see why I can't do anything. Well, that was ignorance on my part.
That's hard to believe.
I never had a daddy. I only had a stepdaddy that all he thought about was his damn mules and grass in his cotton and all that kind of stuff.
And what did he get out of you?
Right. And I didn't dare mention marriage or sex or anything like that to him.
He wasn't interested in that.
No.
You learned that on your own.
I had to learn that by myself. And my first experience after I got married, I knew Zella was a virgin. And I did have that much sense. But after about the fourth night, I thought, well, God darn, there's something wrong. I got to carry my wife to a doctor and find out why that I can't get anywhere. The words are taking her to a doctor. And the fifth night, it happened. And wow, that's when she got pregnant with James.
I guess that's when we got James.
It was. It had to be.
I know it, because he was born 9 months and 1 day.
Right.
I said, well, one thing, I was married 9 months, you couldn't say I was pregnant.
Well, Mama, how do you feel when you first found out you was pregnant with James?
Well, to tell you the truth,
I couldn't believe it.
no, I couldn't believe it. I just felt like, that I ought to, what?
Yeah.
Monthly periods all the time.
Yeah.
And Verlon carried me to the doctor.
I'm ignorant about sex.
Yeah.
And Verlon carried me to the doctor, old Dr. Stone. You remember you and Mama?
Yeah.
I was going to find out what was wrong with me. I got to where I had a headache, dizzy spells, Well, they carried me down to Dr. Stone. And he said, well, now you could be pregnant. That's what he told me. He said, you could be pregnant. And I said, I could. He said, yeah, you sure could. And said, you'll know, said, in a short time, I'm going to give you some medicine. And said, if you are pregnant, it won't hurt you. And said, if you're not, it will start everything.
Yeah.
But sure enough, I went on back home, taking that medicine for a while. Taking about half of it, you know. Nothing ever started. So I just quit. I said, well, I'm just going to quit. I believe I'm convinced now that I am pregnant. Well, sure enough, 9 months like that, when James was born. But I had a good, easy time with James.
Wasn't no hard birth at all, huh?
No, I had about 3 or 4 hard pains and
You have a doctor then?
had a doctor.
Even though you did paint not too long before he was born. You
Yeah.
remember that when
Yeah.
you slid down the wall with the side of the heater?
Sure did. And well, brother went to the doctor then to see about that.
Her
And he
mom
come
and
over.
daddy was there.
Yeah.
And I made some kind of remark. I clown kind of like Glenn, you know. And she was standing leaning back against the wall, and the heater was right over here. And I was saying something to her, and all of a sudden she just started sliding down the wall. Her knees
I turned blind. I couldn't see that.
and I thought at first she was just carrying on, you know, like I was. And I saw that she wasn't carrying on. So by the time she hit the floor, I run over and grabbed her and picked her up and carried her over and put her on the bed. And her mom and daddy was there. Her mama was there, I know. And her mama, she got real excited. And she says, Zella has fainted. I said, well, what the hell she fainted for? And she said, well, she did. She said, you know she's pregnant? I said, yeah, I know that. And I got scared then. I started working with her. And in a little bit, she opened her eyes. And what happened? She said, oh, I don't know. And it was over with just like that. And I thought, God darn. What's all this about? Woman just sliding down the wall like that because she's pregnant? Hell, I was 20 years old. I didn't know nothing about pregnant women.
But Mommy, you had a pretty easy birth, didn't you?
Sure did. Verlon went to call the doctor. I take sick about 2 o'clock one morning. You know, started having backaches, pain,
Yeah.
you know.
He went out to the doctor, huh?